Hello my friends, Nico here from Neural Frames. Neural Frames is a powerful platform that gives you a lot of creative freedom in creating AI music videos and AI animations. But with a lot of freedom comes a lot of responsibility. Today we want to go through the most common misconceptions in Neural Frames, the most common mistakes that people make. It is a rather advanced video, but it will help you a lot to master this platform and to create the best AI music videos out there today.
1. Distorted faces from hell.
We have two AI architectures on our website, which is Stable Diffusion and Stable Diffusion XL. Stable Diffusion renders in a native resolution of 512 by 512 pixels, which is the reason why we upscale the videos later on for no extra costs to increase the video quality such that you can achieve 4K resolution. The network architecture of Stable Diffusion is in such a way that the image size gets decreased in the AI and then increased again. It means that relatively small objects become very distorted later on because they get shrunk to a few pixels in the center of the neural network. And this has an effect for an object that a lot of people want to depict, which is faces, and especially faces when they're small on the screen. Let me show you one example of that. For instance, here I prompted realistic vision for a full body shot of a beautiful woman, and what I got was actually not very nice. The faces are expected to be very small on the screen, so they get shrunk down to very few pixels and then they get distorted like this. And this is usually not really what you want. We have two solutions for it. One is, don't ask for a full body shot, but instead use something a little bit closer. For instance, a 3/4 shot or a portrait close-up, something like this. You can see that even these smaller Stable Diffusion models, such as Realistic Vision, catch the faces beautifully. The alternative is to use one of the two bigger AI models that we have. We have Stable Diffusion XL and Juggernaut XL. The latter we supply in collaboration with rundiffusion.com. And these models are actually double the resolution of the other models, which means 1024 by 1024 pixels. And they can depict also smaller objects very, very nicely. You can see here, this is a full body shot and they get caught really beautifully. The flip side is that these models are a little bit slower, but it might just be worth it.
2. Master modulations.
We heard from a couple of people that they couldn't really figure out how the modulation stuff works on Neural Frames. This makes me very sad, because I think, and actually the whole team thinks, modulation is one of the coolest things you can do on Neural Frames. So I will try to now show a couple of examples of how the modulation stuff works, what doesn't, and I hope I can articulate it clearly enough such that you are able to modulate any parameter you want later on. Okay, so here we're in a project. We have a woman in the cornfield again, and we have a song also. Cool song made with Suno AI. Now, I would like to have some modulation on the kick drum. Maybe we zoom in on the kick drum, okay? So we add this modulation here. I'm sure you figured this out. And then you can say audio source for modulation. You can see the kick. And then you can say zoom. And now we have the big question, what is this amplitude here? In this clip here, we have all kinds of settings, right? But zoom is 0.5. It means per frame, we zoom in by 0.5 of whatever unit this is. Some weird AI unit, okay? If we have the amplitude here of 0.2, it means that for most times, whenever this signal here is 0, actually we will have a zoom of 0.5, because it's the value of this guy, right? We have a value of 0.5, but wherever we have some signal here, the amplitude increases to effectively 0.7, which is 0.5 plus 0.2. Okay, but when the signal here is not maximum, but instead a bit lower, it doesn't go all the way to 0.7, because this is 0.2 when it's the maximum, the amplitude. Here it just then goes up to 0.65 and then goes down again and then up again, right? And doesn't reach 0.7 again. So the amplitude you're choosing there depends on how your waveform looks like. Okay, in this case we can play it. And amazing, we see nothing, right? We almost see no modulation on the kick drum, and I'm sure many of you have felt the same and then had doubts. What is all of this about? Well, fear not. We have a solution, and that solution is increase the amplitude. Same project, same prompts, same settings, but here we modulate the zoom based on the kick drum with an amplitude of 2 instead of 0.2, which means the effective value goes up to here 2.1 and here even 2.5. Okay, this is much higher than before. So what happens if we play it? Even here, I would say the modulation is still somewhat weak. And think about it, this is only, for the kick drum, this is only a split second where we actually zoom in by 2.5 or whatever that is, which is also not very long. Okay, so let's go a bit more extreme. Let's keep everything the same, but now kick to zoom with an amplitude of 20, not 0.2, not 2, now it's 20. And now let's play it. Isn't that great? We got the modulation to work with the proper amplitude. So don't be afraid to experiment a little bit with the right amplitude here. I hope this helps, and you can modulate until the morning comes and until the newest squirrel runs away full of fear.
3. Prompt transitions done right.
One feedback that we got a couple of times from our users is, I just don't understand how to get transitions right. I put on one prompt on the timeline and then another prompt on the timeline, and somehow the second prompt almost gets ignored. Let's understand why this is. Here we have 2 prompts on the timeline. For the first prompt, I just put in a squirrel wearing a party hat and then hit pimp my prompt. And then we got this beautiful prompt out. And for the second prompt, I just put in Matchbox cars, blue Ferraris, toys. I just wanted something completely different now. Okay, and we have actually standard settings here. I'm just in pro mode, but it's standard settings. Okay, so let's play this. Yeah, it works well. We get Matchbox cars out. Nice. What I want you to notice though is the squirrel is here in this beautiful shape, and the squirrel kind of becomes this tiny human being. Right? So here is, what is this? It's still kind of a squirrel, even though we prompted for Matchbox cars and blue Ferraris and toys, and now this becomes this tiny human being, and the shape of the squirrel, somehow the ghost of the squirrel lives on. Okay? The reason for that is the edge echo. Now, edge echo, don't blame the edge echo, please. The edge echo was a beautiful invention that I had in the mountains of Sri Lanka.
My dearest Neural friends, there's a new update on Neural Frames that I'm very happy and proud to present today. We call it Visual Echo, and it's based...
But still, it's in some sense also detrimental. What is edge echo? Edge echo helps keeping the edges within the images constant. So it calculates wherever there's transitions in these images, for instance, the shape of the squirrel, and then somehow tries to keep these shapes the same. So it will now fit this prompt into the shape of the squirrel, right? Which might be in some cases a bit hard to do. Now, we can do 2 things if we want the transition to pop. One thing is just decrease the edge echo. Same settings as before, but the second prompt now has an edge echo of 0.2 instead of 0.8. And if we play it, we see that there's not really the squirrel shape anymore, even though we still see somehow something wherever the squirrel was before, but it's at least not in the shape of the squirrel and it fits much better. Cool, nice, that's a solution. But now you could say, but Nico, we want to use the edge echo. Now we don't want this instability of the second prompt here. We want to keep it stable, but just we want the transition to happen. And I say, no problem, we have a solution, my friend. We can add a modulation bump. So here we have 2 prompts, one with the edge echo of 0.8 and one again with the edge echo of 0.8. But what we do now is just for this transition, we implement a pulse modulation with a negative amplitude on the edge echo. What will this do? A negative amplitude, now it's very high, -10. What this will do is it will decrease the edge echo for the duration of the pulse. So we will have a short period of no edge echo and then again the normal edge echo. You can also put this on the snare on a transition. This looks also cool, and now we play it and you can see that the transition actually happens very briefly. It goes to the Matchbox cars and the squirrel disappears, right? So we reduce the edge echo just for a short amount of time and then it's there again. And so in this way we can go from one prompt to the next. Isn't that awesome? Let's move to the next topic.
4. Too smooth or too smooth.
Now we have this parameter called smooth on neural frames. And smooth is the number of interpolation frames that will be added between two AI outputs. Smooth 1 will be no interpolation frame, 2 will be one interpolation frame, and so on. These days I like to use, personally I like to use low smooth values, but I see some people still using very high smooth values, and that's fine. I just want you to be mindful of some problems that can happen there. For instance, look at this nice cat in Tuscany. We have a smooth of 16. It's very high. It's on the very higher end, and a strength of 0.5. And then we zoom in, and we see these not very nice distortions on the face. Every 16th frame is recalculated from the AI. All the frames in between are just like interpolation frames. So there's not much new input. And if there is new input and the strength is 0.5, it means only basically half the pixels are exchanged with the AI and half are kept. So I would like to give a recommendation when you have a high smooth like this to use at least a high strength also. For instance, 0.8 or even higher. Now the settings are the same. What you see is that the distortions on the face are still there, but a bit less, right? So look at the cat here in the end with low strength and then with high strength. Is prettier that way.
Pretty.
So if you want it smooth and you want some camera motion, try to keep the strength high. There is another issue here with the medium strength and high smooth that I want you to make aware of. When you're panning, it's also not very pretty. And this is also because the edge echo is there. The edge is trying to keep the cat where it is, even though the cat is not where it is because it's moving. Okay, so high smooth, be careful what you're doing. You can always go to a lower smooth, right, and get the flickering results, and then you're safe with the shape. But of course you have the flickering aesthetics. But you can also use the streaking of the objects to your advantage. Check out this user's deep surface. Right, he zooms out very, very strongly, but the edges then make weird shapes, and he uses this to his advantage as an artistic effect. I think that is fantastic. In general, the video is great. So you can play with it and make your own transitions that way.
5 hotkeys.
And last but not least, we have several hotkeys to make your life easier in neural frames, which we see a lot of people not know about. For instance, you can press space and play and pause with space. You can move left and right by clicking the left and right arrow key frame by frame. This is also cool. You can copy and paste objects. For instance, I can select this modulation box, Command C, press here, Command V, copy and paste this. I can delete it with backspace. And also we have a save as functionality here, where you can duplicate the project and then it opens up a new tab and you can work in two projects. Thank you very much for tuning in today. This is Nico from Neural Frames. Join our Discord, subscribe our YouTube channel, follow us everywhere, write me an email what you think about life, about Neural Frames and about neural squirrels. And I hope to see you soon again. Happy rendering.